Hello, and welcome back. My name is Jay Greenstein, and I am sometimes known as the grumpy old writing coach, mainly because writers make me grumpy. But today, I'm here to talk about something that, like so many things about writing, that we notice and we react to, but we never notice it happening. This time, it's something very special. It's an ability that human beings have, that we all use, but we never notice. And it's all due to certain cells in the brain called mirroring cells. Now, I'm sure all of you have seen a situation where someone stubs their toe, they bark their shins, something happens to hurt them, and you react to it as if it happened to you. You feel their pain. It's a natural human thing. And what we don't realize is it is built in as a means of learning. When we watch someone do something, there are times when we feel like we're doing it ourselves, and we literally are. Our body is being triggered to make those motions, but at such a low level that no actual movement takes place. Nonetheless, it has given us the feel of doing it. So when it's our turn to do it, we have a very good idea of how to do it. It's a very quick way of learning. It's a very handy skill, and it's one that you need to know how to evoke. Because that's the trick with writing fiction. We don't tell people what happened. We make them feel it as if it's happening. And that is making use of those mirror cells. If you know how to do it. You can't do that by simply saying John walked down the street and somebody hit him over the head. That's a report. You have to make the reader feel that pain. And that's the whole basis of what fiction writing does, what the techniques are for, if we have the techniques. And part of the problem lies in the fact that we will never address any problem that we don't recognize as a problem. Why would we? And that's part of what I'm doing. My goal isn't to teach you to write. I'm certainly not a writing teacher. My goal is to point out those things which we see, which we recognize and act on, but never realize that it's happening or why we're doing it. Make sense? Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to cover, aside from the mirroring cells, is what I call outside in versus inside out writing. Outside in, that's easy. You've done it all the way through school. This happened, that happened. A dispassionate narrator explains and reports. And yes, we do inform the reader. Yes, they are more knowledgeable than they were, but so what? That's not exciting. History books are written that way, and history books are boring. Okay? History books never do evoke the mirror cells. So the trick is to write from the inside out, to place the reader into the driver's seat of that character we call the protagonist. Too many writers or hopeful writers that I see are telling the story. They're explaining what's happening, and they have no particular viewpoint. So we can't ever evoke the mirroring function because we're never inside of anybody other than he said this or he thought that. That's a report. Okay? We only tell people somebody thought something when they know what caused them to have the thought. And in that case, well, there's actually two ways of doing that I know of. The first is direct. Something happens, we know what happened, and there's an italicized thought that follows it. Okay? The other way is what I call an indirect thought, where we talk about the result of them having the thought, more or less in concept. It's how we sneak things in that otherwise the reader would not get. But we always endeavor to place the reader into the mind of the protagonist. And that's the strength of our medium. Film's wonderful. You see, just as you see me, you could be across the room, turn around, look at me and look away, and you would know everything that's on the screen. You would know that Freddy Spaghetti behind me, which is my granddaughter, saw the tree that is eating the railing behind the condo and said, yeah, Pop, we should put eyes and a nose on that thing. And that is the result. Okay? But you would see that. You would know Alf is sitting behind me over there. The desk, everything about my shirt, my age, my beard, everything. In an instant. But on the page, one thing follows another. One thing described, next thing described. For God's sakes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's what everybody says. And 1,000 words is 4 standard manuscript pages. So for you to describe what you're seeing right now on the screen would take you 4 pages. And I'm ignoring all of it. So who cares? Right? That's all background. It's unimportant. That's why we will place our reader into the mind of our protagonist, looking out through their eyes, hearing with their ears, sensing all that they sense that matters to them. Now that cuts down what we have to describe. We don't have to tell the people that there was a Victorian sofa sitting in the corner that was given to the protagonist by his grandmother. Who cares? Right? He's seen it every day of his life, so he ignores it. And if he's ignoring it, you're ignoring it. Now, if you want the reader to know a little bit about it, as enrichment, then you give him a reason to notice it. Okay? But he or she must have a reason for everything they say and they do. Okay? Does that make sense? Well, I hope so. Because the heart and soul of fiction writing is our ability to take that reader, place them into the mind of the protagonist, to care about what matters to the protagonist, and to want to accomplish the goals of the protagonist, not the plot. Okay? So that is mirroring cells, and that is basically, well, it's part of the difference between show and tell. And I hope it makes sense. And until next time, this is the grumpy old writing coach signing off.